convince yourself that God has forgiven you. But you can never escape God's wrath. It always catches up with you. Always.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're explaining the death of Jeffrey Dahmer.
I think at that point it's probably a relief to him, I would think. That was no kind of life.
For this video, we're looking at how his childhood obsession with the dead transitioned into adulthood, leading to a 13-year killing spree and ultimately his own death. What are your thoughts on Netflix's 2022 series? Let us know in the comments. An Early Fascination with Death.
You think I could take one home? Just to practice?
To be honest with you, Jeff, I've been teaching for 22 years and no one's ever asked me that. Sure.
Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, born in 1960, was curious about death from a young age. His early fascination with the concept came with his beginning to collect dead animal remains after his family moved to Ohio from Wisconsin.
Jeff brought the roadkill he found into the backyard of the house, and there in the secrecy of the woods, he dissected the animals.
The morbid hobby only increased as he got older, eventually connecting to his burgeoning sexual desires. According to him, these fantasies of physically controlling an incapacitated partner began when he was a teenager.
Jeffrey was 18, and like most teens his age, he had active sexual fantasies. But Jeffrey's deviated from the norm to include thoughts of killing his lover.
Around the same time, he began to realize that he was attracted to men, something he felt he needed to repress in the early 1970s.
This was a part of his life that he knew was not acceptable to his mom or dad. He knew was not acceptable to his school or his religion, so he kept it very secret.
Dahmer's warped thinking led him to his first murder right after he graduated high school in 1978, which he alleged was unintentional. He didn't kill again for 9 years.
What happened to you in the 9 years in between that you were able to stop, that you were able to control yourself?
It just wasn't an opportunity to fully express what I wanted to do. There was just not the physical opportunity to do it then.
Dahmer tried to stifle his urges by finding other sources of pleasure, like a store mannequin or a recently buried corpse.
In the struggle to control his fantasies, his behavior became more abnormal.
He took a mannequin from a department store, thinking that if he had that mannequin with him and sleeping in bed with the mannequin, etc., that maybe he could control the impulses that way.
But from 1987 to 1991, he lured, drugged, and killed 16 more males in Milwaukee. Once he was apprehended, Dahmer wanted to make a full confession and assist law enforcement with identifying the victims. He admitted to committing sexual crimes involving the deceased and sometimes cannibalizing their remains.
The word evil doesn't come up very often. It just doesn't. Guilty, not guilty. Did he do it, didn't he do it? Culpability, yes. But not often evil, because evil is almost a moral issue. That word came up with Dahmer.
He also described performing experiments on his victims, attempting to put them in a zombie-like state of compliance.
He wanted these people to stay with him. He didn't want them to leave. And he didn't really want them to die.
For what I did, I should be dead. Since the moment of his arrest on July 22, 1991, Jeffrey Dahmer seemingly believed he deserved to die for his awful crimes, even saying as much.
I feel so bad for what I did to those poor families, and I understand their rightful hate. I have seen their tears, and if I could give my life right now to bring their loved ones back, I would do it. I am so very sorry.
He reportedly asked Detective Dennis Murphy why he didn't, quote, just shoot him. Whether or not he was truly remorseful is up for speculation. But he undoubtedly knew what he did was wrong, and in his eyes, it was punishable by death.
Someone like Dahmer comes along who has never been in a psychiatric hospital and alleges insanity. Juries are going to be skeptical of it.
After being evaluated by several mental health professionals, he was deemed legally sane. Doctors spoke of his longtime obsession with death and attraction to lifeless bodies, with more than one diagnosing him with necrophilia.
And therefore, the logical inference would be that people would think that he's evil, he's a monster, he's just totally perverse, evil person.
In February 1992, Dahmer was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms, plus another life sentence for the 1978 murder he committed in Ohio. Many called for the death penalty, but capital punishment had been abolished in Wisconsin in 1853. With Dahmer's 900-plus years in Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, he would never see outside prison walls.
If you were out on the street now, would you still be committing the crimes?
Probably.
In his trial statement, Dahmer expressed his desire to die for the horrible acts he committed. A large portion of the public also believed the death penalty was the deserved sentence.
Dahmer received the maximum penalty for each and every count. But his story was far from finished.
Finding religion in prison.
Congratulations, Jeff. You're saved. Thanks. Thank you.
Dahmer's first year in prison was spent in solitary confinement because of worries for his safety around other inmates. During this time, he started reading the Bible and became a born-again Christian.
From my conversations with Jeff, I would say that he is genuinely reaching out and trying to embrace some religious aspects of life in order to make his life more bearable.
He began seriously studying religion, and on May 10, 1994, he was baptized by Minister Roy Ratcliffe, who would go on to meet with him every week until Dahmer's death. Oddly enough, serial killer John Wayne Gacy was executed on the same day, and there was a partial solar eclipse. Against advice, Jeffrey Dahmer requested to be moved out of solitary confinement into the general population, exposing him to other prisoners. His mother, Joyce Flint, worried about her son's safety, but said he told her over the phone, quote, "I don't care if something happens to me." Others have also claimed Dahmer didn't fear dying and seemed to be ready to meet his maker. He reportedly said to one of the guards, quote, "This is a living death." On July 3, 1994, Dahmer was attacked after a prison chapel service. An inmate, Osvaldo Durruti, fashioned a makeshift blade and attempted to cut Dahmer's throat. Durruti, who was in prison on possession charges, reportedly did it in hopes of returning to his home country of Cuba, which did not happen. He did, however, receive an additional 5 years on a sentence. Since the weapon broke, Dahmer survived the attack, but this wouldn't be his only violent altercation. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The death of Jeffrey Dahmer. Early on November 28, 1994, almost 5 months after he was attacked, 34-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer met his end. While they were momentarily unsupervised during work detail in the prison gym bathrooms, 25-year-old fellow inmate Christopher Scarver bludgeoned him to death using a metal bar from the gym's weight room. Scarver also fatally wounded Jesse Anderson, another convicted murderer on duty with them. Dahmer suffered severe head trauma and died soon after the attack.
There were a number of people who felt that Jeffrey Dahmer got exactly what he deserved. And I called his mother. She said, "Well, now everybody got what they want. The monster is dead."
Christopher Scarver was serving a life sentence for the June 1990 killing of Stephen Lohman, an employee at the Wisconsin Conservation Corps training program. Scarver claimed he was promised a full-time job and became angry when he wasn't hired. After he started to overindulge in alcohol and was kicked out of his mother's home, he sought revenge. He went to the training center office to confront the site manager, John Fayon, whom he blamed for the job loss. He ended up shooting Lohman instead, while stealing money from Fayon. Scarver was arrested hours later and confessed. He also said that voices told him he was the son of God, the chosen one. For killing Dahmer and Anderson, Scarver received 2 more life sentences. In a 2015 interview with the New York Post, he said he read about the crimes Dahmer committed and believed his behavior indicated that Dahmer was unrepentant. Namely, Dahmer taunted guards and inmates with cannibal-related jokes, like making his food look like body parts.
Hey man, I didn't mean any disrespect. I'm just trying to pass my time.
Per his will, Jeffrey Dahmer was cremated, except for his brain, which was preserved. His ashes were divided between his parents, who fought over what should be done with his brain. Joyce wanted to donate it to science, and Lionel wanted it destroyed.
We have a chance here, Lionel, to find out why he was the way he was. Was it something he was born with? Maybe there was some small tumor somewhere?
Well, I think each of us has our own idea about why Jeff was the way he was, don't we?
Those studying his brain could have provided insights into his psychology. The latter won, and the organ was ordered to be destroyed.
You'll never know why he did what he did. That's an uncomfortable truth, to be sure, but it's one you need to accept.